right, how's everybody doing? All right, lively crowd. I am very excited to be here with you guys, so a little show of hands, so I know who I'm talking to. 5 years or less in the biz. Okay? 6 to 10 years. More than 10? There you go. Those are my Hall of Famers right there. If you've had more than 10 years of business, go ahead and stand up. Give me a hand. These are champions right here. These are Hall of Famers. I'll tell you why. Anybody remember 2008? I know you do. 2008, sitting there watching the Olympics. All of a sudden the Treasury Secretary's on with Matt Lauer. You guys remember what happened? Banks collapsed. Financials. Credit was gone. I was working in Orlando, Florida. A town that lives on credit. The entire timeshare industry is credit. So it was a tough time. These guys survived that. These guys persevered through it. They did what they had to do and they made it happen. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about things that you can do to become a champion. With your organization, for yourself. Maybe one or two things here can help you out personally. So if you got less than 5 years, you're known as a rookie. Don't take it personally. Everybody started there. When you're a rookie, understand the one rule. You got to work harder than anybody else. Okay? Now, one thing I will tell you guys about me, I'm probably the most politically incorrect person you're going to have today. Because I'm a bare knuckle seller. I've been doing it for 30 years, so I just kind of tell it like it is. And my dad told me when I first got in the business, you're not going to know a damn thing if you've been working here 5 years. Okay. Maybe you're right. And the reason is that you have to work so hard is you're learning and you're selling, right? You're learning your business, you're learning your craft, but at the same time you have numbers. It's all about the numbers, right? You've got to go out there every day and perform. But the one thing that you always have to do is keep moving forward, keep learning. So when I got into the entertainment business, I've been working in sports most of my life and in media. I noticed there were a lot of things that were different. The way they operated the house, the way they had the relationships with the artists that came through, how we had different rules for every artist. Neil Diamond won't let anybody come into the room when he's rehearsing, doing a sound check. They'll actually shut down the show, make sure everybody, even the cleaning people, can't be in there. There's certain artists that, because they have a history with alcohol and drugs, won't allow any kind of alcohol or paraphernalia advertising out there, which is a big part of what you do when you work for Live Nation. So what I had to do, even though I'd been in the business for a long time, I had to learn the entertainment side. I had to learn theaters, I had to learn amphitheaters, I had to learn everything. And the way I did it is I started talking to people. You know, go in the back of the stage area and I just hang out with the crews. Go over my premium seat guy. Go talk to him. Get to know him. Found out we had a lot in common. Both had kids about the same age, both doing a lot of the same things, had a lot of the same interests. He started telling me how he works and how things in his side of the house were going. Got to know the GM. Both had kids in soccer, so we bonded right away. And, he kind of told me what he has to do, how he has to manage, what budgets he has. How do we pay the artist? You know, in the old days, Chuck Berry used to get a sack of money. He'd put it right on stage where he was performing and watch it the whole time he was performing. That's just what you do when you're first 5 years of business. You got to go around and learn everything about the house. Whether you're working in sports, entertainment, arts, culture, it doesn't matter. You've got to learn everybody in the house and what they do and how it all comes together and how it interacts. And how do you produce a successful show, a successful game, a successful season, a championship run? Because you're going to need all these people. At some point or another, you're going to need somebody to help you out, whether it's a favor, whether it's access, anything. So you need these relationships. A lot of times when salespeople first get into business, they kind of get like in that tunnel vision of, I've got to make all these sales calls, I've got to hit these numbers. And I understand that. It is all about the numbers. But if you don't start learning what's going on around you, what your environment is, how you guys all work together, okay? And I'm not talking about the 2-week orientation they put you through where they fly you off to, Dallas or Phoenix and try and teach you the business. I'm talking about where you work, everybody within the building. Some of the most powerful people that I've gotten to know over the years are the ops managers. These guys control so much, and they can make your life miserable, or they can really help you a lot. So that's one of the first people I usually reach out to, and depending on what they like, I usually take pretty good care of them too. And I think that's the other thing is, it is relationships. It is relationships in this business. You got to take care of your people, and your people will take care of you. If all you do is worry about your sales numbers and never take care of the people you work with, what's in it for them? Why do they care? Think about that for a second.
Yeah, shoot.
It really is one of those situations where when you're in your first 5 years in the business, you're everybody's best friend. You're everybody. You're always in a good mood. You're always pumped up, and you're working harder than anybody. And they will notice. They will definitely notice. The old guys will notice. The veterans, they'll notice that you're in there before everyone else. They'll notice that you're working late. They'll notice that you're asking questions. They'll notice that you're doing your research and you're trying to learn the business. And then the third thing is you have to also learn your clients and your prospects. Sometimes you get, not too often, but sometimes when you start out in this business, they'll get you a little bit of a house list, start off with, get your feet wet. That's fine. They're usually not the best accounts, but they're, for the most part, can be pretty regular accounts. Those are great guys to learn how to ask the right questions about how their business works. How do they make money? And I tell you something. When I sit down with the CEO of the company, that's the questions he asks me. He wants to know how I make money. Because once he knows how I make money, he knows exactly where he is in the negotiating process. Right? If he knows where my margins are, if he knows where I'm, doing well, if he knows that really we're more interested in an integrated marketing program overall, as opposed to just selling a scoreboard sign or a luxury suite or something else, he's going to know how to negotiate with me. He's going to know where he's starting, where I'm starting, and how we're going to get somewhere in the middle there, how we're going to accomplish this. So to kind of wrap up with the rookies, you have to put the time in. You got to earn your stripes. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's no technology that's going to be created today, tomorrow, or 5 years from now that's going to save you that. You got to put in the hours. How many people here come from a sports background, played sports, either high school, college, minors? Then you know what I'm talking about. You know what the practice means. You know what the dedication means. You know how hard you have to work to become good in sports. Well, it's the same with sales. You have to work that hard. Harder than anybody else if you want to make it. That first year is a bear. It was for each and every one of us in here. That first year you are making tons of mistakes, but that's okay. I've never, by the way, 30 years of doing this, I've never had a general manager, general sales manager, VP of communications, anybody that I've worked for who came in and reamed me out for making a mistake. Because mistakes are how we learn. So you can't be afraid about doing that. You can't be afraid about flubbing a line on the phone or forgetting something in the middle of your pitch or leaving something out of a leave behind pitch. We're all human, we're all gonna make mistakes. But the fact that you come back and you learn from those mistakes and you keep building your craft, you keep getting better, you keep working on your craft, that's what's gonna make you a real good salesperson. Second thing is, you know, when we talk about guys between 6 and 10 years, those are your MVPs. You know how you can tell those guys in the audience today? They're all looking at their phones during the presentation. They're checking on their deal. Oh, here we are on that one. Yeah, well, maybe we can do this. And those are usually people who are very, very consumed in what they're doing because they carry the largest list. They're usually, you know, they don't have the cherry accounts, but they usually have the highest volume, the most new business, the most renewal business. They're just doing the critical mass. You've heard those statistics before about the 80-20 rule. Those are your guys who are your MVPs. And the only thing I can really offer you guys is be very careful of smartest guy in the room syndrome. We've all been on those conference calls, right? That one guy who works in like Atlanta or San Francisco who has to pipe up on every conference call and give his opinion because, God forbid, we get through this call and he doesn't talk. Well, that's the smartest guy in the room. Here's the problem. Sales is a humbling business. You are going, if you get too cocky, if you start skating, you are going to be brought down hard. And it's usually going to be something like around 2008 when the recession hit. If you were taking a lot of things for granted, you were thinking, I got this all figured out. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to work this system I have. And I'm going to continue to make money and continue to, raise my numbers every year, and I'm going to do great. But what you've done, unfortunately, in something like that, is settled. It's settled for running your system, running your program, and you weren't looking out for the new opportunities, and you weren't really focused on where this business is going and what's going to happen. And this business, like I said, will humble you. It doesn't matter what you sell, by the way. I've sold just about everything. Has anybody here ever done naming rights? Naming rights is a sink or swim business. I mean, when I was with Live Nation, naming rights were really 3/4 of our billing. 3/4 of our billing were our naming rights partners. And then it was like the guy who was giving you millions of dollars, and then the other guys were giving you $25,000, $50,000 and that sort of thing. So naming rights were usually what the MVP guys sold because they had all the connections, they knew people, they've been in the marketplace, they knew how to get to people, they knew what they were doing. But the problem is, if you got too cocky and you took those relationships for granted and you weren't taking care of the right people, maybe some upstart kid comes along and takes it right away from you. And that's a humbling experience when you have somebody who has less than 5 years in the business come in and take a deal away that could basically have made your year. Could even make a couple of years for you if it's a multi-year deal. The last area of in sales development are the guys who we had stand up, the Hall of Famers. You can learn a whole lot from these people because they've seen it all, they've done it all, they know how this business works, they've watched the evolution, they survived those middle years when you can get a little bit too cocky, and they've actually been able to produce a book of business for a decade or more. That's pretty amazing when you think about it. That is someone to look up to, someone to respect. I don't think we do enough of it in our business. We're all so focused on our own little world, our own little, numbers and goals that we don't really consider the fact that here's somebody who, back in the early 2000s or even in the 90s was doing this and was killing it and is now up there doing it now. So a lot of times with Hall of Famers, where we end up is we kind of get a little, we're kind of looking more towards the end of our career and our retirement and how things are going to kind of wrap up for us. And, we've usually got the biggest accounts. the biggest billers, the most passionate people about our business. And we're usually probably the most comfortable people in the room. You can put us in front of a CEO any day, anytime. We know how to talk to him. He's not going to intimidate us. We can sit down with the CFO and talk numbers till the cows come home. You know, he's going to throw objection, objection, question, question. Seen it, done it, heard it, know it, understand it. And of course, the guys who like to give you a hard time, the hard negotiators, the tough guys. You know how to deal with them. And you need to do it in a professional and graceful kind of way where you're not, going toe-to-toe fighting. You're taking the objections, you're taking the insults or whatever he's throwing your way, and you're able to turn that around and turn it into a positive and close the deal. And you walk away, and guess what? Is anyone here from Florida? I had 1-800-ASK Gary as an account. You guys know who he is?
Yes.
Call Gary. Call the attorney referral service. Gary was actually a chiropractor. He wasn't even an attorney. But he was a tough New York guy. He's a tough guy. You know what? We went toe-to-toe. We did the naming rights deal for one of the amphitheaters. And Gary and I became really good friends because you know what? You earn respect. You earn respect when you get toe-to-toe with a guy like that. And he sees that you're not going to back down, but you're still going to be a pro, and he respects that. Because here's a guy who probably, literally, he told me a story, but he opened in the poorest part of town and literally scraped his way to the top. And the way he kind of made his money was one day someone came in from a car accident to see the chiropractor, and all of a sudden he found out that, the PIP insurance thing was a pretty good deal. And he started working that, and then he built that up into a multi-million-dollar business. And now he's into all kinds of stuff, and Gary and I are still close. And that's some of the rewards that come from being a Hall of Famer. Is you get to meet those guys, you get to work with them. And I've worked with a lot of other business owners, people who either started a business and built it up, or ended up taking over the business from someone. Maybe they bought the business, or it was their dad's business. It doesn't really matter. So one of the things that's really helpful to a Hall of Famer is if you start mentoring. And if you can find that young up-and-coming salesperson that you respect and you think they've got what it takes to be in the business, help them out a little bit. Take them under your wing. That's what happened to me. My first year in the business, I had someone come along and take me under her wing, and she showed me the ropes. And, it's just sometimes a little bit of, maybe you want to go this way a little bit more. Maybe, and don't say that anymore when you're on the phone. That's not good. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is relationships, right? Selling is relationships. And those relationships internally are just as important as some of those external relationships. Because if you, as a Hall of Famer, can take that person under your wing and help them out, and help take them along, you're also going to be energized. I'll give you a great example of that. I had a person I hired recently who came to the business from the talent side. It's like, oh man, talent people are not always the best salespeople. They're not the most disciplined, but they are good folks. So I said, okay, we'll give this a go. You know what? This person has done more for my career than anybody else. And I'll tell you why, because they came with a completely different perspective. And all of a sudden, we started talking about the things that Troy mentioned, like Facebook Live and Instagram stories. And now, where my company is saying the future is digital, the platforms are going to be digital, the money that's going to be coming in, we're projecting anywhere from 20 to 40% of our total sponsorship revenue is going to be digital. Guess which property of the 127 in Learfield is on track to do that? Do you think it was the 54-year-old guy that figured that out? Seriously. I remember the first guy came to me and said, we want to do a website. I go, what's that? What's a website? That's how old I am. But I'm also going to tell you that when you get the young people together with the Hall of Famers, you start to see some really cool things evolve. New technologies, new ways to communicate, new platforms emerge, and they can kind of explain how it works. And then the old timers can sit there and kind of, well, I can see that, but I also see the ripple effect that's going to cause because they have that experience, they have that knowledge. And so that helps the younger person say, okay, maybe I'm not so focused on the here and now. Maybe I'm focused on 2 years down the road, 4 years down the road, 6 years down the road. What's a good example of that? Well, people on their pricing. A lot of people don't know how to price digital right now. It's the easiest thing to understand as far as audience. It's got instantaneous measurement. We know to the second who's going to be viewing that, who's going to be interacting with that, how many people responded. We know our ROIs and our metrics. You know, it's instantaneous. But do we know 2, 4, 6 years down the road? If we price it too cheap now and you come up for renewal, even if you do a 2 or 3 year deal, that's the worst position to be in. When all of a sudden you're going, man, we priced this thing and everybody else, you know, our market is way above us. So, what I'd like to, I guess, probably close up with here is just reiterate. You got a very diverse group in here, all right? But you're all somewhere in your career, and there's a way for each to help each other out. And I tell you what I get out of these conferences more than anything is when those doors open up and we're sitting out there in the hallway and I start talking to guys. You know, how are you doing this? What are you doing with that? Real world stuff, right? Real world selling, that's what really gets things going. So it's all about relationships, guys. And it's all about what you do with those relationships. Take care of your people internally and take care of clients and work harder than anybody else. And you'll be a superstar. Any questions? All right.